Kevin Stefanski talking about Baker Mayfield, or as the case may be, not talking about Baker Mayfield. Nothing to be gained by airing out dirty laundry. Everybody seems to be taking the high road. You don't want Baker Mayfield responding, and they know how prickly he can be. And I said prickly. I put the ly on there. It is an appropriate word to use in this and other settings. They don't want that fight. They've finally reached kind of an awkward truce with him, and I think he understands it's in his best interest to just kind of go along and understand that he wants a team that wants him. I had heard weeks ago that there was a belief he needed to be humbled as part of this trade. He has been. Colts weren't interested. Seahawks, as far as I can tell, aren't interested. He may have to settle for the Panthers, and that's okay because he needs to ultimately have that resolve from within to go be the best player he can be and set himself up for whatever he's going to have by way of an NFL career because he's only 27 years old. So smart by the Browns to not agitate, and there's a mutual interest here in Baker Mayfield landing with a team that gets the Browns fair return and that gives Baker Mayfield a fair chance to turn his career around.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think, when Kevin Stefanski uses the words fluid and unique, I think those are pretty correct terms. Right? I mean, we don't know exactly when a trade is going to go down for Baker Mayfield, in part because we don't really know what's going to happen with the draft. So that's kind of where they are. They're just kind of at an impasse. And, I think Baker Mayfield could have made it a little more uncomfortable for the Browns if he did show up to work this week for the voluntary offseason program, but he didn't. And that's fine. He can train wherever it is that he wants to train. And, maybe eventually he does get sent to the Carolina Panthers where Robbie Anderson doesn't want him at all. So I don't know, Mike, what's your sense? I mean, do you think this will be resolved around the draft, or will Baker Mayfield have to wait a little longer?
Unless the Carolina Panthers or some other team have completely and totally decided under no circumstances would they take one of the best quarterbacks available, then then you mobilize to get Baker Mayfield. If the Panthers have decided we don't want Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis or Matt Corral or any of these guys, and we're not even going to try to trade down and play it that way or whatever the case may be, because I could see a situation where the Panthers would drop back into the teens and try to get a guy there. And then if they don't, that's when the Mayfield option becomes relevant. Unless they're ready to say right now, we're out on all the quarterbacks, I think it plays out through the draft, through round one, through round two, and somebody who wanted a quarterback and didn't get a quarterback makes the move on Baker Mayfield. The only risk you're taking there is if there are two teams that are looking at quarterback and they don't get the guy they want in round one or round two, then you may not get Baker Mayfield. The Falcons could come into play for Baker Mayfield, potentially, if they don't get a quarterback in the draft, because they've got Marcus Mariota and nothing really else to work with. So,
hey, put some respect on Felipe Frank's name, all right?
Okay. Like I said, they don't have much to work with other than Marcus Mariota. I'm impressed you know the name of the other quarterback on the Falcons roster, and that's it right now. That's it.
Yes.
Two quarterbacks. They're going to at least have four when it's time to do their off-season workouts, the full-blown on-field practices. So, long story bearable, I think it's going to happen during or after the draft.
Okay. I mean, I think that makes sense. But, yeah, I can see the Panthers moving down in part because their GM, Scott Fitterer, comes from the John Schneider School in Seattle of GMing. Right. And that's something that Seattle seems to always be doing. They're always moving down. They're always gathering more assets. And because the Panthers don't have many more picks in those higher rounds, they to me, are a really prime candidate to trade down. Now, I don't know who's going to trade up, but there usually is some team that disguises their interest pretty well that then says, yeah, let's go up, let's do this, and then let's get the guy we really, really want. So we'll see if the Panthers stay at 6. I don't know if they will. But if they do trade down, then I think, either they will get another quarterback or they can say, yeah, we're trading down because we want more assets because we know we need to build around the QB a little bit more than we just need a QB. And then that's when they could go after somebody like Baker Mayfield.
And they are moving on from Baker Mayfield because they got Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. Here's Kevin Stefanski about the guy that we saw show up in the snow wondering, what the hell am I doing in Cleveland? It's snowing on April 19. Do we have that photo? I mean, but it's April 19. Now it snowed here too. But he could have been in Atlanta. He could have been in New Orleans. He could have been in It's not snowing in Charlotte on April 19. But he looks happy.
It's not. I'm being from there. It's also not snowing in Santa Monica on April 19th. So but I don't. People don't need to be mad about Cleveland. All right, Cleveland's a good place to live. It's a great place to raise a family, and it's a great place to grow up. Yeah,
I love Cleveland. Here's Kevin Stefanski talking about his new quarterback, Deshaun Watson.
He's doing a really nice job, learning the system. He's spending a lot of time with Jacoby and Josh. We really have 3 new quarterbacks in there. So there's a lot of learning that's going on. There's a lot of teaching, as you can imagine. I think he's doing a nice job of diving into it. And there's really no way to do it other than to start at square one and go back over how we call things, formations, defensive terminology, etc. And he's doing a nice job. Okay, with the quarterback, you do want this to be a collaboration. And it's really all quarterbacks are different. And you want to make sure you meet them where they are. Deshaun's very open-minded to trying different things that he hasn't done. Similarly, we're very open-minded to putting in schemes that he has a lot of success in that we haven't done, for instance. So it's an ongoing conversation, but just I would tell you day in and day out with him, just spending time with him yesterday and today, he wants to certainly grow as a player, and he wants to try different concepts.
And, we'll see how it goes, but they have a lot invested. And just like I said earlier in the program with Trey Lance, all the pressure that's placed on him, I doubt there are a few players in the NFL this year that are going to be feeling greater pressure than Deshaun Watson, especially if he's suspended, let's just say 6 games to start the season. Week 7, there it is. Everybody else has their round 3 sweat going, and they've been banging away. And here comes Deshaun Watson. First time we've seen him play since January of 2021. His last game with the Houston Texans. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him. He's going to be feeling it to deliver, to justify the contract, to justify the investment, to justify dealing with the distraction. And I continue to believe that it's in his best interest to make that all go away, settle those cases, control what you can control, and you can control those cases, whatever it takes, make them go away and put that behind you. Because if those are still lingering when he makes his debut, that's even more pressure on Deshaun Watson, Miles.
Certainly, and it's something that's going to continue to hang over his head, throughout whatever it is, and it's going to continue to hang over the team as well. So it's not just going to be Deshaun Watson's coming back, let's ask Deshaun Watson about the relevance of these cases and how it's taking a toll on him and this and that and the third. It's going to be asking every single player who's on that team, if he is suspended for 6 games, when he comes back, it's going to be, hey, what do you think about this? Well, how are you going to adapt to Deshaun Watson? What is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? And it's going to be the same thing probably throughout training camp as well. So like you said, the sooner he can settle these cases, the better off he's going to be, and probably the better off the Browns are going to be. So we'll have to see what happens there. And,
I hope that there's an epiphany and I understand. Here's the problem. And this is what it's going to take. I've said this before, but let me just hammer this home. They need a retired judge to get everyone in the room together, and somebody needs to speak to Tony Busby, because I think he's going to try to exploit the situation and jack up the price to settle these cases, because he knows there's urgency on the part of Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. It would be wrong for Busby to do that. He needs to do right by his clients, and Deshaun Watson needs to do right by the plaintiffs, and they need someone with the right touch to bring these two sides together and make this go away in everyone's best interest.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.